That's not just the sound of that first sip of Morning Joe. It's the sound of someone shopping for a car on Carvana from the comfort of home.
That's a good blend.
It's time to take it easy, like answering some easy questions to get pre-qualified for a car in minutes.
Talk about starting the morning right.
Just like customizing your terms so your car fits your budget. Visit Carvana.com or download the app to experience car shopping the way it should be. Convenient, comfortable. Ah.
Man, that sunset is gorgeous.
Grill, patio, sunset. Hard to get better than that. Unless you're browsing Carvana's inventory while you soak it all in.
Oh, burger time.
So sit back, get comfortable. Carvana's got thousands of cars under $20,000 just waiting for you.
I could stay here forever.
Carvana, where car buying meets comfort meets convenience. Download the app or visit Carvana.com today.
Hello, and welcome to the Growth Mindset Podcast, your weekly dose of inspiration and exploration. Join me, your host, Sam Harris, as I discover how mindset can help you do incredible things through my conversations with the world's most interesting people, from tech billionaires to leading scientists, best-selling authors to notorious hackers. The goal is to increase our collective wisdom and attitudes to make us all happier and healthier, wiser and wealthier. Who doesn't want that? Welcome to the first podcast of 2020. For me, anyway. As you are a normal human, you might not be listening to this as your first podcast in 2020, so I should probably stop talking about it, really. Anyway, this podcast episode does question a lot of what you might be doing with your life and will invite you to think about what things are and the way they are and what they could actually be instead. So maybe this is useful for you to listen to as you are deciding what to do with your decade, or whether you want to have a new gender for this decade, because of why not. Anyway, today we have Noam Kostucki on the podcast, who was my guest last week. He is a success coach and a renowned public speaker and author. He left his successful life in business to move to Costa Rica and to get in touch with nature, whilst at the same time he started a fine dining restaurant which is now rated number 1 on TripAdvisor for the whole country. So Noam is a radical human with amazing power to think deeply and transcend the normal problems that hold people back, I guess. And currently he's also getting back into coaching and helping people to do impossible things, which is pretty cool as a resume. The first part of our conversation was hosted last week, and it's worth listening to before this, but this episode does make sense by itself as a standalone, and we discuss how to tell engaging stories, how to find success, and we move into a very big discussion on gender and general open-mindedness and the future of gender. Yeah, it's a bit deep. I certainly learned a lot from it and have really changed my own personal opinions on things. I identified it as straight before this podcast, and now I'm not, so that's interesting. Maybe it'll have an effect on you as well. We will see. I hope you enjoy it. If you didn't listen to the last episode, there's one concept about multiple realities which is quite important to this episode, which is the idea that as a human, you don't have to just have like one main kind of reality. You can be both an introvert and an extrovert kind of thing. Like there's different sort of parts of your personality that can come out in different situations, and you don't necessarily always belong in one box. You can be in like 2 different boxes, or like there can be no box and you can just be like all shades of different colors. You don't just have to be black or white kind of thing. So that's quite an important thing that you just need to sort of understand why we're using this term. And then just from where we left off in the last podcast, Noam was explaining how his restaurant came to be so successful, and the fact that he's sort of creating multiple story layers to people as they arrive in the middle of Costa Rica expecting this really fancy fine dining restaurant, but then like he turns up as like a shirtless hippie and there's like just picnic tables around, and then like this weird food comes out, and he just explains how he set that up, and that he's like setting up this like hypnotic loop of different stories going on that are confusing people, and then how he brings it all together. And we then arrive now in the conversation here of just him explaining the hypnotic loops again, and then why that's how his restaurant is so successful, because of his sort of creating all these crazy story layers. And then we go into a debate of like success and how you make different businesses and things. So that should just like get you in the right spot to listen to this podcast.
One of the main techniques of hypnosis is the idea of opening multiple stories and not finishing them. And then you finish them all at the same time. And so what happens every time you start a new story and you don't finish it, the person's kind of hanging because they're waiting for you to finish the previous story, but now they're trying to follow the next one. And then you start a new story and they're trying to follow that story, but now they're trying to hang out to the last two stories. And that's kind of how you create what they call an hypnotic loop, which is, getting people into this thing where they're like, whoa, and they go in and in and in and in because they're trying to keep up with. And then when you close them, suddenly it's like, wow, it all makes sense. And that's what happens is that they're like, wait, what the fuck? Fine dining. And then they see me. They're like, wait, this dude lives in the jungle alone in the middle of nowhere. What the fuck is this about? Where is the staff? And then they're like, wait, but you're a business coach and you don't have culinary training. So we talk about the business coaching. And I tell them about working with large companies. And they see this guy with long hair and they're trying to open that story about a corporate guy doing consulting and living in London and New York. And then sometimes we talk about my ex-wife and like, okay, so this dude was married to a woman in New York who's an accountant. And then, we may talk about judo, and then we may talk about other countries, and then we talk about the food and all of that while they're eating really nice creative stuff. And the food I create is like me, it's just a weird combination of stuff. And so they're eating stuff where they're like, what the fuck is this? Like, what? You can eat that? I didn't know you could eat that. I'm like, I didn't know you could eat that either, to be honest. I was like, that's why I'm serving it to you, because I was surprised when I did this. And I was like, oh, wow, this is good. And so I really shared the experience with them because it's stuff that I'm just like, wow, this is awesome. I didn't know this could be that good. So I mostly don't know what I'm doing, and I just try, and I'm just willing to make a lot of mistakes. And because I'm willing to make a lot of mistakes, I get to do things that other people don't do. And so that's how the restaurant worked. And it wasn't supposed to be a restaurant. It was just a temporary project. But somehow I think that it had the right blend of different realities in my life,
Yeah. Okay. So have you had many kind of projects like that? Because I've tried a lot of different temporary things, just putting stuff together, some of which I kind of realized I could make work, but then was like, you know what? This isn't going to be that fun. So this was something that you could just try and then realize actually it was a lot of fun and could just carry on doing.
Yeah. And I think that this is, again, this idea of, these sort of multiple realities and being okay with change. And humans are terrible actually at change. We're really bad at accepting change and letting go of things. I think that what's been important for me is the idea of, being able to do temporary projects and let them go. And like you said, being like, that was fun, that was cool, but whatever. I'll do something else. I'll move on. I'll do another version. Because, I've done tons of projects like that. Started so many things, built websites, wrote books, so many things that didn't work. But you know what? The best thing I learned about the stuff that don't work is if you're going to fail fast. So ship quickly so that the stuff that don't work don't take you too much time. And if something works, then spend more time on it. So that's the way I operate, is that I'm very much in a conversation with my audience and my clients and my network, which is I put things out. Once I see something sticks, then I'm like, okay, wait a second. If that sticks, then let's spend more time on that.
Definitely.
And very willing to let go of things and be like, you know what, this is not. Like I did photography, for example. I did 4 or 5 exhibitions. I sold a bunch of photos. I made some good money. But I was like, do I really want to be standing at exhibitions every week? And I was like, I could do this, like once a month, but not every day.
Yeah. I've had the exact same thing. I started like a bit of a travel business, just doing cool things where I basically was able to go travel to awesome places and get a bunch of people to come with me because I organized it. And get paid having awesome experiences. But then it's like, actually, do I really want to be organizing these things and being responsible for a bunch of people all the time? And it's like, actually, no, it's fine. I've had a few cool tours. People paid for me to go cool places, and that's fine. I don't need to run this for the next few years and build it as a business. So it's just stress me out.
And that's the biggest thing that's, for me, was important to unlearn from school, was the idea of being okay to not finish stuff. In school, there's this idea you have to finish what you start. You have to finish what you start. It's like, this is the dumbest idea that I've been taught, I think, as a kid. When is finish? I mean, I guess it's a great idea in the idea of finishing something, the idea of completing. The question, I guess, the stupidity of it is, how far is finishing? I think what's important is saying, okay, well, let's do a 1 hour project or 1 month project or 1 week project and then finish that. But then that's it. Then you can let go and move on to something else, and you don't have to stick with it.
Yeah, it's really, really, really useful for lots of entrepreneurs and things.
Same for your stuff. And I know you were saying, for your coaching that you're not sure, there's that, while you're doing the conversations. I think you're doing it the right way, which is things emerge.
Yeah, definitely. It's also quite nice in terms of like what you were just saying about the hypnotism, because quite often I'll start a conversation and I'll get the person to sort of tell me their life story right away, and there'll be like 4 different things to sort of pick up on. So they've literally made like 4 open loops straight away, and we'll go through the conversation kind of opening up more and then sort of kind of closing them off until you get to the end when you finally like close the whole thing. And so it kind of keeps you like in the whole thing, and it's really nice. Whereas
exactly,
if I just sort of go, okay, I'm going to ask you X, Y, Z, it's just a bit like it could lead somewhere else, but I'm not really that interested. And it's sort of, it's weird. Yeah, it's definitely.
Yeah, it's nice when the conversation can go round and round and round and
then kind of come back to itself. It's good.
Look back.
So, going back to some of the things that we also spoke about. So, how did you think about, because you said you wrote some books. I've just been reading your book about branding, which
oh, cool.
Yeah, it's really nice. I really like the way you got some good examples, but it's really quite, it makes you think, like I said earlier, that you ask good questions. It really makes you actively do the thing that you should be doing. Well, it's not just a book that you kind of read and think, oh yeah, it was really good, I had some good ideas, and then you kind of just forget about. It's like you actually do the things. And so that's super helpful. But is that part of your kind of blending yourself into reality and achieving what you wanted to do? Is that how you kind of tried to define yourself to get the goals that you wanted? Like the branding, was that kind of what you were doing? And then you were
the personal branding?
Yeah. And did you brand yourself specifically and then just write a book to help other people do it? Or was
No. And funnily enough, I've been very resistant to calling my website Noam Kostucki.com, even though that's what I recommend everyone else to do. But I've got to obviously not do what I think is the right thing for everybody else. Because that's life. But what happened, that was a funny story, that book, actually, because I did my TED Talk. A guy contacted me and he was like, I want to interview you. And I was like, sure, what do you want to interview me about? It's like, I want to interview you around personal branding. And I'm like, my TED Talk's not about personal branding. I was like, I think you got the wrong guy. I was like, that's not what I do. I was like, oh, well, basically he was like, put your name on Google and tell me, I want to know how you do that. And I put my name on Google and I saw all the results, and that, everything's about me. It's just lots of articles and videos and this and that. And I was like, oh, that's easy. I was like, I can tell you about that. I was like, that's no problem. And we had a whole conversation. And, as I have conversations, I often take notes. And by the end of the conversation, I had all these notes around what I was talking about and answering his questions about how, I got myself, I guess, how I built my brand. And by the end of it, I was like, wait, actually, I do know a lot about personal branding. I was like, I never thought I did. I didn't even know what personal branding was until I had that conversation. But I'd been doing the stuff. And so I told him, I said, look, you've written books and you do interviews and you write articles. I'm not a writer. I was like, I'm a speaker. I was like, would you be up for doing a series of interviews around this? We go deeper into all these topics. I was like, I've got the map here, we just pick each topic. You interview me, and then we get a transcript of the audio, and we have a book. And the guy was like, okay, that sounds fun. And that's how a year and a half later I had the book in my hands, and I was like, how the fuck did this happen? I remember just being like, wait a second, how did we do this?
Yeah.
It's like, it's just amazing. Yeah.
That's
So
cool.
that's how I wrote the book. So I had no idea. So I had no clue. I didn't even market it. I didn't promote it. I didn't do a launch event because my contention was the first of anything you do is crap. So no point advertising it because it's my first book. So obviously it's not going to be good. So I'll write another 2 or 3 and then we'll start promoting them. And then it became required reading at the Fashion Institute of Technology a few years later. And I was like, wow, I guess maybe it's not that bad.
Yeah,
So
I'm enjoying it. It's good.
So that was cool. I was like, wow.
Yeah, nice. But yeah, I do sort of agree with the philosophy of not going super hard on things when you first do. Like when I first started the podcast, it was more learning the process of podcasting rather than trying to make it huge. And like now it's actually growing really fast just because people are liking it. And I went onto like Reddit to try and do some recommending and found people actually in different channels recommending my podcast already. It was like, oh shit, I don't need to do this. Cool. And
Well, that's
kind of
nice.
satisfying. Yeah, that's really cool.
That's very cool.
Yeah.
That's awesome. That's great news.
That's definitely like a bit of a turning point of like, oh wow, can take this a bit more seriously. It's good. But yeah, so you learn how to write books. So then your other books, would you say they're better, or because I haven't had a chance to read the other ones yet?
The newer ones, are they better?
Or
maybe.
Well, yeah, I guess
it's different. I haven't read my first book for a long time, but
yeah,
I would definitely think that my writings improved a lot. And now I write my own books. I've been doing the writing for the last few books. And people have told me that my release on Facebook has become a lot better. I mean, in the last 6 months, I've had a lot of people sending me messages saying, hey, wow, I love the way you write. Your writing is so touching. It's so personal. So this and that. And I'm like, wow, kind of interesting how suddenly, I went from nobody to suddenly a lot of people telling me the same thing. And it's like, oh, wow, okay. So maybe my writing did get better, It's like, I wasn't intending on it. That wasn't the goal, but somehow, so I would hope that, my later books are better written. The stories are more concise, more to the point, less rambling, better English, maybe. I don't know.
Yeah, that's possibly because I haven't really been on Facebook so much. It's one thing I kind of miss is I quite enjoyed like getting your updates. Most people's are kind of quite boring, but you also sort of like, whoa, this guy's gone super deep on something kind of really interesting and weird and different. And
lately my newest updates are definitely getting some interesting conversations going because I've been doing this new research exploration around gender identity and gender expression. And so I ended up doing a photo shoot before Pride with heels and female kind of clothes.
Yeah, I remember that. Yeah, I was like, what?
A bunch of those. And that's been fun. I mean, the conversations that it sparked, wow. Some deep conversations there. I think that's opening a big Pandora's box.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, I really don't know what to ask exactly, but I feel like I should ask something. What inspired you to go into exploring your sexuality exactly? Did you sort of just realize, hey, I'm just like a human, what does it really matter? Because I even found myself a few years ago being like, why do I really care about being a man? Or like, I was thinking, we were talking about the subject of like being Googleable and having your name. Because I'm Sam Harris, and there's like another really famous Sam Harris. And I was like, I could change my name to like Harsh Harris, because that's kind of gangster, or like Happy Harris, that's kind of funny. Or I could just become Samantha Harris. I mean, why do I care about being a guy? I really wasn't that bothered. And like, it's more just like, it's a bit of a expense to bother changing your sexuality. And I guess I'm not interested in having sex with guys. So I guess I need to be a lesbian, but I don't really care about the me exactly. And yeah, it's just being a bit lost about the whole thing, and then ultimately didn't really make any decisions and just left it as it is. It's probably
I love the questions. I think it's brilliant, and I think to me that's the questions that make life a lot of fun, and that's a lot more of the questions that I want to explore with people.
Mm.
You know, the RuPaul had this really cool quote where he talks about not taking our identity seriously, and how, you know, what's cool about drag is that it's making fun of our identities. And yeah, I think that it's interesting from, I mean, I don't know what sparked. I mean, I've always had weird questions, you know, I've always asked myself weird questions. What made this exploration happen more specifically was the fact that a year ago I went to Pride here in Costa Rica, and I wore high heels for the first time in public, and the response was incredible. People behaved to me in a way that they've never behaved before. People saw me and treated me in a way that I've never been treated before. And I was like, wait a second. I didn't change. I'm still the same person. The only thing that changed is I'm wearing heels now. But suddenly, everything changed. Reality changed. You know, I was living in a different parallel reality where I wasn't, you know, like a threatening straight white guy. I was a beautiful, vulnerable, feminine kind of guy, you know, and it was just incredible. And so after that, after getting separated from my ex who was trans, I decided to go for the first time alone to a gay club. And I went to the capital city and went to a gay club with heels and stuff. And I never got so many numbers. I mean, it's very simple. I never got a phone number from a girl while out in my life, I think. And there in that one night, I got more phone numbers than I got tons of phone numbers. I couldn't believe it, from women and men, but mostly from women. And I was like, wait a second, you know, what's going on here?
Yeah,
there's something to explore. There's something to see, because obviously this is fun. This is interesting. This is different. And the reaction from my audience seemed to be very good.
Yeah, wow. Yeah, it's funny because I certainly found I can get attention from guys a lot more easily than girls, but
Yeah.
that's sort of a problem more. And kind of, yeah, it kind of gets me a bit worried when I go out with like lots of people, well, lots of gay people around. And like, I don't really have any problem with gay people, but I get a bit creeped out when like they're constantly sort of talking to me, because I'm like, I look quite young, I got a good body, and like I'm quite small. As a guy, it seems to fit like the profile of what other men like, apparently. And it's a bit of a conundrum, because if I could just learn to like men, my life would be great. I could just be having sex all the time.
It's fun. I had that thought a lot, because I had the same situation. So that's become actually one of my life goals for this year, is getting to find men attractive.
Wow, yeah, like, let me know how that goes.
I'm like, you know what? Why the fuck do I not find men attractive? I was like, it makes no sense. You know, it's half of the population. They want sex all the time. You know, it just makes so much sense. So that's definitely been one of the new reframing and a new sort of reprogramming of my being, is changing that. And it's been a fun, interesting exploration. Uncomfortable at times for sure, but definitely interesting and fun, because it's like, oh wow, so this is what opening up is like. And you gain a lot of other advantages. I mean, it's the first time that now people offer me drinks, people invite me for dinner, people come and pick me up at my place and drop me back home. And it's like, oh wow, there's some really nice advantages and perks to being on the other side sometimes.
It's a hard one. Yeah, it's definitely interesting to see how you get around that. Yeah, it would be nice. Except everything else about it I kind of quite like. It's nice. It's just just not really that into guys as such. So it's kind of, how do you make your brain?
But
just
like
think,
people, but
have the right
like
people at the right time.
I know a lot of people weren't into seafood. They
Yeah,
never
you
liked
can change your
seafood, and
mind.
then
For sure.
eventually you acquire, there's some acquired taste. There's some tastes
Mm.
that are natural, and then there's some stuff that
Yeah, maybe it's kind of
you
like
don't
olives.
like, and then
You
the
always
more you
hate
eat
it, but
it,
then
yeah, the more you eat it, the more eventually you're like, wait, actually, you know what, this is not bad. And then eventually one day you wake up and you're like, wait, this is fucking great, actually. I really like this.
yeah, I
Why
guess
did I not like them?
one of my conundrums is like, how do you like first instigate it? Because I don't really want to like do anything with my gay friends because I feel they're meant. I don't
Grinder.
know. Huh?
Grinder is an interesting place to start.
Yeah, I guess.
Because on
But then
Grinder,
I
the
sort of
great
don't want to
thing
do
is
it with a
that,
stranger, and it's like, oh, now I'm confused.
yeah, but then it's kind of, it allows you, the good thing about Grinder is that it redefines sexuality for men also, because it gives a chance to explore sexuality in a very different way, because it's very much, it's very practical. It's not like with women.
Cool.
It's like you open Grinder, you receive a dick pic, and the
Oh, my
guy is
favorite.
like, it's like, hey, do you want sex now? And so you can set your standards right away. Be like, no, I'm just looking for this, that, and that. I can do this, I can't do that. And then you get answers very quickly. It's a very quick yes and no kind of situation. So it's kind of interesting. It's like, you get an
Yeah,
ass
definitely.
pic, you get, like, that's like, you start with, guys who look very feminine. You gotta start with trans women. I don't know.
Wow. Yeah, interesting. Maybe I'll actually try it.
You give it a shot. And and what's great is that there on Grinder, you can do what you can't do with
Yeah.
most women in terms of dating in
Mm.
the sort of the normal kind of world. Of course, some women you can, which is to just be like, I don't do this, I don't like that, I'm not interested in this. And
Yeah, yeah.
people be like, okay. I remember sending a photo to a guy, one of my very first people on Grinder. We exchanged photos, and then I sent a photo with my face, and he's like, "Oh, sorry, I don't do brunettes." Okay, well,
Yeah,
sure. Have a nice day. Thank you. Goodbye. Yeah, and it's just very easy.
yeah. Mm.
So
Yeah.
yeah, it's an easy way to create good agreements.
Cool. So
Get some free massages, like you might get a lot of gay guys will very happily give you a massage and be like, look, you can give me a massage and
yeah,
that's
somebody
it,
else happy. Mm.
Exactly. A massage with a happy ending and no kissing and whatever, and you'd be surprised. Some guys would be like, sure, I'll do that. I'll give you a blowjob. I'll just come just give you a blowjob and leave. And that's the thing for me is that the same with the heels and the same with all these stuff is because some people who are listening may be like, oh, what the fuck? What? Like, whatever.
You don't know
I
it
mean,
until you've
it's
tried
just fun. It's just trying things in life. It's like trying a new type of food. It's like trying a new job. It's like going to a different country. I think that sometimes we make these kind of explorations too serious. It's like, but then that means you're gay. It's like, maybe not. I
Yeah,
mean,
yeah.
maybe you try it and
So
then you're
what?
like, oh no, I fucking don't like this. No, this is really not happening. And that's fine. And there's no shame in doing things that then you're like, oh no, wow, no, disgusting. No, 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 no.
Yeah.
Not no more of that. And I think that that's okay. And I think that that's kind of for anyone listening, I think that this is the key thing that I love about your openness is that you're like, oh, maybe I could just try that and see what happens.
Mm. Yeah, it's funny because I remember like when I was younger, being really concerned about people thinking I was gay. And now I'm like, I don't even care if someone thinks I'm gay. That's whether they're right or wrong. It's up to them. It's their own thought. It doesn't really matter. I'm still me, whether or not they think this or not.
When I was going to clubs with friends, that was always kind of biggest was, what if you dance and someone thinks that the way you dance looks a little gay? And then when I went dancing for the first time in a gay club with my high heels, I remember, at first I was a little kind of shy. I mean, I'm in a gay club. I'm not even, I'm not even interested in guys. And then I thought, you know what, the worst that can happen is people think I'm straight.
Yeah.
You know? and that just made me laugh. And I was like, okay, yeah, this is ridiculous. I'm like, you know, who fucking cares? I was like,
Yeah, it's
but
really
yeah, as a straight guy, I think that this is kind of one of the biggest fears. It's a weird thing. And in terms of multiple realities, you know, I'm definitely very LGBTQ, and you know, like I wear high heels, I've had sex with guys and trans and all that. And I still see myself as a straight guy. And as a straight guy, it still worries me that people would think I'm gay, which obviously I am. So fucking LGBT, you know, like, but somehow my straight white male side is like, oh God, you know, I don't want people to think I'm gay. Like this is, you know, this would be terrible.
yeah, yeah. Yeah, I
It's
think
so ingrained.
it is.
It's really weird and funny. And I remember having conversation with my ex where she would we're in New York and she was like, oh, but my friend can lend you some jeans. And I was like, oh no, his stuff looks so gay. And she's like, you're wearing high heels. Like I was like, yeah, but high heels is feminine. That's gay. And she's like, what the fuck are you talking about? I was like, that makes no sense, you know? Why would you be okay with wearing a skirt, but not being okay with wearing a gay looking pair of jeans? I'm like, go fucking figure. I don't know.
Yeah, my
I was like,
brain.
I know it makes no sense. I was like, it makes no sense. I was like, I know it makes no sense, but for me, that looks gay
Hey,
and that
it's your
looks like
style.
woman
Dig
sense.
it.
You know, but yeah, it's weird. Like we're weird animals.
Yeah, teams are definitely stupid. So yeah, where do you see thinking like long term in like 5 years time? Then, if you change a lot, do you think you'll still be in Costa Rica running restaurants? Do you think you'll be, you know, had a sex change, adopted some like kids from Thailand?
I have no idea, to be honest. I don't really know. I like to be open to the idea that things could be very, very different from what I imagine. But what I do foresee in terms of, you know, where I think that things are going, in 5 years, I would think that I'm probably still here in Costa Rica, running the restaurant, doing coaching. Possibly by that time, I would be done with my whole sort of gender identity, fashion kind of phase stuff. I might, you know, have moved on to something else. And within 5 years, I'm guessing that I'll probably be looking at the next thing in my life. I've got a feeling that 5 years is kind of the time I need to complete this phase of the restaurant, the land, my home, being legal here in Costa Rica, doing, you know, everything I need to do here. This kind of chapter of my life, I think in 5 years probably is gonna be ready. So I would think that in 5 years is about the sort of what I consider to be, you know, the peak of the mountain for me. It's the point where, you know, it's the highest point you can see, and you know on the other side there's something else, but you can't
Yeah,
quite
yeah,
see it until you
definitely.
get to that point.
You can kind of
So
see the lay of the
that's
land when you
what
get there and like make your choices, but you don't know what the choices will even be
yeah.
at the moment. So
No, no, but you
can't
know that
overthink
there's
it.
something on the other side. So 5 years, I think there's something interesting on the other side. Maybe outside of Costa Rica, maybe in a different place in Costa Rica, but it feels like it's probably going to be the time for a new project, something bigger and more challenging and
Yeah,
fun. And
cool.
I'm not sure
Yeah.
what, probably related to coaching. I've always wanted to do more of like an incubation kind of education system. I'd love
Yeah.
to have people come for much more intense periods of times, you
Yeah, I
know,
imagine you
like
could do a really good
love
job
to
with that.
like what?
Yeah, I imagine you could do a really good job with that, like sort of like a 3 month sort of
Yeah, 3 months, super
intensive.
intensive, you know, every day. I would love to do a thing where for 6 months, you know, every day you wake up and we go running together, we exercise together, we meditate together, we cook together, we garden together, we fight together, we practice, you know, different types of activities that stimulate the mind, stimulate the emotions. We do coaching, we do personal development work, we create things. That would be such a cool
Yeah, that sounds
project.
amazing. If you want like a test bunny rabbit to start that off, I'm happy to come help.
Perfect. Absolutely. I'll let you know. That would be, for me, that would be the coolest thing. If I could do 3 months a year, yeah, with like 6 to 12 people, do something like that, I think would be so much fun. It would be so interesting.
Yeah, that sounds perfect. Definitely sold on that idea.
Thank you.
That's
Well, that's
pretty
cool.
good.
So that's a first person then.
Yeah, nice.
So yeah, that will be about 5 years time, I think.
Sure, next year isn't it on the cards, you know?
What?
Sure, next year isn't on the cards. Might be, that's what I'm doing in 5 years' time. But yeah, anyway, do you think you'll write any other books in the meantime, or?
Well, I actually, there's a new book being published now
Wow.
that I contributed to about growth hacking. And so the chapter in there, it's like, so 2-page kind of chapter in a book with a lot of different people, which is exciting. There's got a lot of very big names from India. And then I'm now actually thinking about doing a new book around gender identity and gender expression. So that's kind of my new baby project, is doing a new photo shoot with a group of people and creating a book that, would sort of explore these questions and talk about what it means to be male, female, masculine, feminine. Not necessarily, like my other books. I'm not planning to preach and give anybody answers, but
ask
I'm
deep
interested in
questions.
giving people a bunch of fucking annoying questions.
Yeah.
And
now you go and deal with it.
Good luck.
Definitely.
Thank you.
Yeah, nice.
So yeah, that's kind of the new book project. So I'm really, really excited by that.
Cool. Okay, then anything that you've been doing that you sort of seen a lot of that you feel like you can predict where it's going in 5 years' time? So like, do you think the way that we view gender will be completely different in 5 years' time, or like the state of restaurants, or
I think that the state of gender is definitely changing a lot. I think that the world is going through a new openness. I think that we're going through a crisis of masculinity, and I think we're going to see a lot of changes around that. I think that the gender question is definitely going to be a big topic, and I've got a feeling that, as much as the last sort of 100 years have been about empowering women and about elevating women, I've got a feeling that this next phase now and the next 5 years might be the beginning of reconnecting men with both masculinity and femininity. I can see the response to what I'm doing is so surprising. I mean, from heterosexual men and women in Costa Rica, in the US, in the Philippines, young and old, it's really amazing to see how people are responding. And so I think that this is definitely a trend that I'm curious to see where it's gonna go, because I think that we're getting a liberation of gender and opening the attachment and opening questions that were restricting us.
Yeah, that's very interesting. So if you think, like, if you could have just flipped a switch and just said, "Oh, I'm a woman now today," but like have no one sort of think differently, as in just treat you as if you'd always been a woman, you sort of instantly just, I'd love to know what it would be like to like, grow up, what it's being like as a woman, and see if I prefer that. But then like taking the change and having the whole backlog of everyone saying, "Well, you used to be a man, why are you a woman now?" is a much bigger thing to like have to deal with. But if you could actually not suddenly have those prejudices against you and just sort of choose to do whatever you feel like on any given day and not worry about the rest of it, suddenly it's like a lot more attractive. And if the world's perception of that changes, then why wouldn't you bother trying it?
Yeah. And that's kind of what I've been doing, is allowing myself to do that.
Yeah.
With the beard and with everything, and have people be like, wait, but if you're wearing a skirt, then you should be shaving your legs, or if you're doing this, you should shave your beard. I'm like, no, I'm not gonna do that. I'll do what I want to do. And as much as the idea of having boobs and shaving my whole body kind of could be cool, I was like, I'm not gonna go through that. I was like, I'm not doing that. I'm doing the other stuff. Or like, I'm doing what I want to do, and I don't have to conform to an idea. And what's being funny is that, for example, the whole thing about shaving legs, the only people who made a comment is women, not men,
Yeah.
which is fascinating because we talk about the whole patriarchy. And I've been arguing for the last couple of weeks on Facebook with people about the fact that women are big holders and keepers of the patriarchy. And these kind of comments confirm that for me. It's women who keep these kind of norms more than men do.
Yeah, yes. And the women that kind of define, like you're saying, like on Tinder, sort of define how dates need to be, whereas on Grindr, you can just be what you want. And it's sort of because if you wanted to be impressing women that you sort of define the way you live your life, whereas if you don't really care so much, suddenly it doesn't really matter and you can kind of do what you want and it becomes a lot more freer. Damn women. I mean, women are great.
They are. And that's what the two energies I think I needed.
Yeah, it's funny.
But yeah, it definitely has that other side to it also.
Yeah, interesting. Okay, so let's go super backtracking. What's your earliest memory from childhood or vivid memory?
I have like a few memories from elementary school, early years. I remember a rabbit getting out of the cage in the classroom and people getting on chairs and teachers screaming.
Yeah.
I can remember that we had like a board, like a behavior board with little like pins. I remember that we had a good behavior dinner in school, in elementary school. These are,
Random collections.
I
Yeah.
think, a random
Nothing cool.
collection of my earliest memories, and these are all around the same kind of times, first to third grade ish.
Yeah. It's just it's one of the questions that about 50% of people that I ask that have like a crazy weird first memory of like something huge and profound, and 50% of people it's just some weird like odd stuff that kind of doesn't really tie into anything, but it's kind of worth asking.
No, it doesn't really tie, except the fact that it's kind of interesting that one of my earliest memories is this dinner about,
Now you're
norms and how to the good behaviors of dining, of French dining, so that's one of my earliest memories is being told you have to eat like this, like that, and you sit like that, and you can do this, and you can say that, and you can talk about this.
Yeah.
That's the world I lived in. That's the world I grew up in. A world of norms and appearance. I think that's kind of. I've been talking lately quite a lot about the whole conversation around white privileges and what it's like being white, and I think that's one thing that people underestimate about. One of the problems with the whole thing of being white is the crazy pressure, at least where I grew up, on appearance and appearing perfect. And the fact that you're never allowed to complain, you're never allowed to be unhappy, because if you complain about anything, an adult will tell you, well, there's a kid somewhere who is less fortunate than you are. And so you don't have the rights to ever be unhappy or ever complain. And that was kind of a very interesting and weird thing that I've been thinking a lot in the last 48 hours that I never noticed before.
Yeah, no, that's quite deep. And certainly like on social media, you sort of feel like you always need to kind of present yourself as having a nice time and doing fun things and such. And it's not really that useful. And if you do say you're having a problem and it's just sort of like crying for attention, and it's also annoying. And
exactly. It's like, if you don't talk about the stuff that bring you down and make you feel sad, then it's like you're not being open and vulnerable. But then once you talk about the open and vulnerable stuff, then people tell you don't cry for attention, don't behave like a schoolgirl.
Definitely.
And then people will tell you things like, oh, come on, like, you're from Belgium and blah, blah. It's easy for you. Like, if you were from where we are, it's so much more difficult. And it's a weird thing, Another weird thing that I noticed also in the last 48 hours I think about is how, as a straight white guy, as a kid, you weren't allowed, when you're frustrated, you were not allowed to cry because crying made you a sissy and a girl. So, I mean, what's the other response to frustration than crying is shouting. But
Yeah, it's
as
saying
an
that to like
adult, as a
shout and
guy,
beat
you're
people up.
not allowed to shout. Exactly, you're not allowed to shout. So when you're frustrated as a guy, you're not allowed to cry because that makes you a sissy. You're not allowed to shout because that makes you aggressive. What the fuck are you supposed to do? And how do you express your frustration as a guy if you're not allowed to either cry or shout?
Stiff upper
So,
lip.
what?
Stiff upper lip, as they say in Britain.
Exactly. And that's what happens. All guys just, and
Yeah.
that's why we've got a percentage, we've got like 80% or whatever of suicides being made by men, and 80% of homicides are men killing other men. And I think that's because we take it on other men, or we take it on ourselves, because we're not taught how to express our emotions, and we're not taught how to sort of be ourselves and how to be. So yeah, these are
Yeah. Thanks, fucking
interesting, deep, serious shit that are definitely high on my board these days.
yeah. They're kind of hard things to just bring up with people. They're much more interesting things to talk about, and then like, you know, people just ask you what you do and like where you're from, and you're like, whoa, let's just talk like super meta weird shit, and it's much more fascinating. And
yeah, it's like, let's go deep into man, and yeah, I think that men have been away from the conversation for too long. You know, like we've talked about everyone else, but especially white men, like, have been sort of not talked about much. What's happening to that group, which is kind of a big group in the West, the Western world, and men in the rest of the world. I mean, men in Asia and men, all over the world have, I think, not been talked about enough. So I have a feeling that this is something that we're gonna see more and more.
yeah, definitely. What do you think your life would have been like if you had been born a woman?
God, wow.
Do you think you'd be exploring being a man at the moment, or?
Probably, you know what? Very likely. I would certainly think so. I think that if I had been born a woman, I would probably likely be on the flip side and explore masculinity and enjoy both being hyper feminine but hyper masculine at the same time. I mean, I think that I would hate being stuck in a female role. That's why I say, and that's why I'm not transitioning, because more than I would hate, more than I hate being stuck being a man would be to be stuck being a woman. It's like I would just be stuck with another problem. It's just,
Yeah, grass is always
I
greener.
mean,
What's the point of like putting so much effort to just have a bunch of different problems?
it's just different problems. Like, I'm gonna resolve some of the problems I have as a man, but I'm gonna gain new problems. So
Yeah,
it's trading problems. Do I want to trade problems?
not really.
You know what? If I had the option when I was 12 or 13, I would have probably done it. I
Interesting.
think so. I think
Yeah,
that if I had been given a choice and that was an option, I would have probably been like, yeah, you know what? I'll just be a woman.
Yeah, because a lot of the debate of people are saying that, sure, like bring your kids up like gender neutral or whatever, but don't let them decide until they're like 20, because if they do it when they're 13, they're too young to make this decision and they could like fuck up the rest of their life. But you're saying that actually you would have liked to have changed when you were young, but now it's too late, which is the opposite of all advice.
Yeah, because I think that there's a point where, I mean, especially for me, I learned to love my body. I mean, I learned to love the body I have. If I love the quote, if there's no solution, there's no problem. There was no solution to changing gender, so there was no problem. It was not a problem. It was just a thing that's how it is. So, I asked myself, how do I make the most out of the body I have? And turns out that one of the good things about male body is that it picks up strength pretty quickly and pretty easily, especially if you do it at a young age. And so I became strong and I started exercising and I started, using my body and seeing what I can do with my body. And I'm like, yeah, this is fucking great, and so I don't feel that idea of the gender dysphoria, of like I'm in the wrong body. I'm like, I'm in this body, whatever. This is the body I have. And yeah, I mean, I was asked by someone, whether I would shave and try to completely be a woman. I think for the right opportunity and the right occasion, I would try it just to see, how close I could be to looking like a woman. But would I want to do that every day?
Yeah.
I don't know.
What would be the right opportunity and the right occasion?
I'm not sure. To be honest. I'm not sure, but I can see that if there was something, the right opportunity, that could be something where I'd be like, hey, yeah, you know what, yeah, I'll do that. But it would have to be a thing where someone else pays for a full body, like hair removal kind of situation, because I'm not putting the time to remove all this body hair. I got body hair everywhere. I'm not doing that work. So someone's paying for that.
I'm pretty sure you can get like a full body wax on Groupon for like 50 quid or something. I mean,
a full body? I don't know. Like, I
Maybe.
think it's full body for women, not full body for me. It's like, I don't think they do that for monkeys. It's like, like, I mean, we're talking about a lot of hair everywhere. So yeah, someone.
That's painful.
Yeah, I would,
I'm sure we could do a Kickstarter and let's get Noam a full body wax.
Well, if there you go. You see, if there was a Kickstarter and people be like, we wanted to see, you do a full body wax and do a photo shoot or whatever, I'd be like, okay, sure, yeah, we'll do that. I was like, that'd be fun,
Yeah, maybe we could.
So exactly. So that's exactly what I mean. Something will come up that will make it. Yeah, we can do that.
Yeah, I'm definitely like those sort of. Sometimes things just come along in the right sort of way, and you're like, oh, sounds like an adventure suddenly, and you're like, yeah, okay, I'll try it anyway. It'd be kind of fun.
And in the sort of like hypothetical situations, if someone showed up in my life and we were to fall crazily in love, and that person would be like, I'm paying for your sex change, and it'd be amazing if you did. I don't know. Who knows? Maybe
that would work. Perhaps
maybe if I was with the right person, the right time, and the person be like, look, here's $100,000, like, and get fake, get boobs and whatever.
Yeah, cool.
No, that might change my mind. That might make me be like, maybe I can do that.
Yeah.
I mean, but yeah, the thought of transitioning, I mean, the effort, the time, the money, the surgeries, it just seems like something that I would never do. Like, there's no way I would ever do it. But then there's so many other things that I thought I would never do that I end up doing. So again, right conditions, right things, you never know. But it's definitely not on my agenda. It's not something that I think are very likely, but possible. I mean, it would be funny if that were to happen. It would definitely be a good story for the book.
Yeah, exactly. As in half the things I do, I'm kind of like, I don't think I want to do it, but actually, it'd be a really interesting story. And fuck it, I mean, what's the matter?
That's how I think about a lot of the things that I do in my life.
Yeah,
I often think, when I write a book about my life, will that be a good story? Does that sound like it's the beginning of a good story?
It's a bit. Actually, it's really good philosophy of like, actually, you learn a lot more and just do.
Exactly. It's like, a truck with 5 guys and machine guns stops and offered to pick me up on the side of the road. It's like, you want to hear the rest of that story. Definitely. It doesn't fucking matter what happens. You're like, oh yeah, then what?
Yeah.
So that's kind of how I decide whether I get in the car or not, which is, oh yeah, that'll make a good Facebook post. It's definitely worth it.
Yeah. Nice. Yeah, so who knows, maybe in 5 years time.
Looking at life now. There you go. Does it make a good Facebook post? Would that story make a good Facebook post?
Well,
Ooh, terrible.
Yeah, I don't know about the Facebook part, but otherwise, good story in life part is definitely good philosophy. But yeah, maybe in 5 years' time, when I'm a millionaire and I come to your retreat, perhaps by the end of it, we're falling in love, and I pay for you to become a woman, and life is great.
Exactly. Who knows? Like
Yeah.
things happen that are unexpected, and I think that's what makes life exciting.
Yeah, definitely.
It's like these conversations, and it's also interesting for me that things happen at the right time in the right place. I've been talking in the last few months about how I'm wanting to get back into having more conversations, and because from the cooking, and it was kind of like I'm to having conversations and coaching and interviews and this and that, and I didn't really have sort of like a set of strategy that I would have had in the past. It was more a sort of, let's put this intention out there and let's take actions towards this happening. And today I had two conversations. So I had a conversation with you. I had a conversation earlier this morning around the theme of the heels and what makes us feel feminine. And I've got another conversation scheduled soon. And so suddenly it's all happening. It's very interesting how it's all emerging whenever, you want and you let it happen. I think that's when also the magic of life, when you get out of the way and you stop trying to control everything.
Definitely.
So yeah, this is cool.
Yeah. I was wondering, so I mean, I only really had one conversation with you before that I found really useful, but is it a bit like odd as a coach when you have so many meaningful, useful conversations with people? Do you feel kind of like you constantly have to be helping people because of, I feel like you've got like a bit of a gift that you're just super good at like talking to people and helping them. Do you feel like you constantly have to do this now?
Yeah, which is why it was nice to take a break from it and to not be coaching people. Because there's a point where it becomes, I think like everything, it becomes repetitive. It becomes, something that you feel you have to do. It becomes like a must. It becomes automated. It becomes, like.
That's
For
why
me, the moment that something becomes a routine, it's time for me to change.
Yeah.
And so I know that's why it's time for me to get back into coaching, because the cooking is slowly starting to become a bit of a routine. Something where I'm so good that I'm like, okay, yeah, whatever. I don't really need to think about it. I just do and do and do and do, and it works and it's great. But I think you need that drive of something up, and so that's why I'm finding a pull to something new. And that's, I guess, where I'm liking the whole gender identity thing, and that's leading to new coaching kind of conversations. But I'm still trying to get away from the word coaching. I'm still looking for another word. And I think it's more around conversation than around coaching, because I'm much rather have a conversation than coaching.
And then how do you get someone to pay you to have conversations with you?
That's kind of what I'm exploring, and I don't have an answer quite now. But yeah, coaching is.
But you have the questions, so
Yeah,
I get that. Cool.
So we're gonna figure this out. It's gonna happen and emerge somehow. But definitely, like it's cool to see how one thing leads to another.
Yeah, definitely. So, what's the kindest thing someone's ever done for you?
The kindest thing that someone's ever done to me. Ooh. Wow, there's been so many. Let me try to give me a second to think about it. God, it's happened so many times, but I think it's always the same. It's times where I've had people who've given me the love and loved me when I felt like I didn't love myself. People who love me unconditionally at times, people who loved me in ways that I didn't think was lovable. That's the kindest thing that people have done in my life. And I can't think of one more than another because it's just happened so many times. I mean, one of the latest ones was with my ex. before we were even together. And when she told me, and often I find that it's like small lines or small things people do that seem like nothing. It's that type of that line where she said, "Nothing would be too feminine for you." That was just an incredible gift. So I guess, you know what, in a way, it's like when love becomes like a key that opens a new door, because that's what it was, that loving comment that just opened a new world for me, and that made a new life possible. And that's very, very kind. That's a beautiful gift, because I can live a whole new life thanks to that one comment, that one hug, that one line.
Yeah, that was pretty deep, but really beautiful. Thanks. Yeah, have you got any questions for me? Or do you have any questions that you want to leave people to ask themselves? Or one than the other? Don't know how much time you have.
I guess I don't have a specific question, except possibly just sharing the one question that I've been enjoying asking myself lately, and that my ex used to be sometimes really annoyed when I would ask her, which is, what do you want to do with your life today? And I've been kind of having a lot of fun playing with that question, about the idea of reinventing my life every day and sitting and being, okay, so what do I actually want to do with my entire life today?
Yeah, that's pretty
And
epic.
not, and it makes every day sort of open to that idea of being
A bit more exciting and effective.
Yeah,
Not wasting
and
things.
be nice, And actually, surprisingly, quite a lot of time I've been like, actually, nothing. Like, I was like, right now with my life, I want to do nothing. I was like, this is going to be perfect. So somehow it's been very freeing also.
Yeah, being a bit of a plant, as you say.
Oh yeah, that's been good.
Cool.
Being a vegetable, fun.
Nice. Well, yeah, thank you so much. That was super fascinating conversation. It was a delight to reconnect with you after 5 or 6 years that it's been. And,
Yeah,
it's been great to have an excuse.
Same here. It's been fun, and I'm glad, that we can have these conversations. And I think it's awesome that we're at times where we can record conversations like these, and where we can share them, because it's fun. And I think of myself when I was younger. If I had access to conversations like these when I was like 13, 14, 15, I would have freaking loved this. I mean, I've always loved listening to people having cool conversations. So yeah, it's fun. Thank you so much. And thanks for taking the time. Thanks for the attention. Thanks for, going to this without necessarily a strict agenda, and the idea of an open exploration. I'm not even sure what we talked about.
Yeah. I mean, I was thinking like, some like life coaching, business advice, or something, and ended up being like, so maybe I try wearing high heels and going on Grindr. Really nice that we opened the avenues there.
Yeah, you never know.
Human and stuff.
So I definitely look forward to seeing, what comes out of these explorations. If something comes out of it, let me know. It'd be fun to hear.
Yeah, sure. Yeah, it'd be fun. Definitely try it out. Cool. Well,
Awesome.
Thanks, man. And good luck with the rest of the conversations today, and writing the book, and hopefully try and catch up a bit more regularly than every 5 years. If not, I'll be seeing you on a beach in 5 years' time, ready for a morning run.
Exactly, when we're doing the next project.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Whenever we reconnect will be awesome. It's been a pleasure. Thank you so much for the conversation.
Cool. All right.
Sending you lots of love. Take care.
Well, that was a little bit different, but I wouldn't have it any other way. Certainly a lot of food for thought to start off your year, and I think a little bit different to any other podcast that's going to be telling you about like habits and setting you up for success. And I'm like, hey guys, let's think about gender. Ooh, why are you your gender? Maybe you should be a different gender. Yeah, it's a good start to the year / decade. Just completely redefine who you may or may not be and what is your role in the world. Interesting, definitely. Next week, I have a mindset coach on the podcast who is lovely and a very good author. I love her book. This is Tracy Litt, and I do talk to her about sex also, and my own problems with sex. So that would be interesting if you liked this podcast. And otherwise, I will be talking to Noam again. He's currently on an ayahuasca ceremony course for the week, which you may have probably already guessed that he may be into these things. So he will be catching up with me in a month or two's time to discuss some of these things. But actually, going forwards with the podcast, I am going to be changing it a bit to be a bit more focused on mindset, because I feel I've maybe missold people a bit on the Growth Mindset podcast, because I kind of it's more just me being very curious and asking people whatever the hell goes into my head, which is lovely and worthy of being on a podcast for sure. But perhaps I should be a bit more focused on just talking about mindsets on here and try to deliver what the title says. And I'm going to start a separate podcast kind of just for me to be curious and do whatever the hell I feel like. Because I think I feel like I am teaching you all about mindsets just vicariously by like finding people's life stories and working out how they've changed their life and turned things around and what the mindsets were that they needed to do that. But I haven't really focused on just the mindset part of it and just gone on a field trip into everything that I possibly can do, which is a lot of fun for me, but I think I could be a lot more concentrated and focused. And so I'm setting up a few different podcasts that actually have a more specific focus rather than just having one podcast where I just throw everything I can at it. So welcome to 2020. I'm going to be doing lots of different podcasting projects, which is my new thing, I guess. I hope you're having a great new year and you're questioning the reality of everything. You're living in multiple universes. You're making fun stories that you can engage in every day and really having adventures of your own. And you're learning to be more like a plant that can chill out most of the time and just spend a few days working like hell in concentrated like output, which is some of the fun things we've learned from Noam in the last few episodes. And if not, then I hope you learn to do these things better. Cool. On that note, goodbye.
You've just listened to an episode of the Growth Mindset podcast. If you enjoyed the show, please subscribe on your preferred app and give me a good rating, as these go a really long way. If you are unable to give good feedback right now, try sharing the show with a friend who will, or just wait for the show to improve. If you have any ideas for the show or you just want to chat, then please reach out to me on Twitter @SamHarrisTweets or Instagram @SamJamSnaps. Show notes and other links to topics discussed in the episodes are available at the website growthmindsetpodcast.com. Thanks so much for listening. Give yourself a big hug from me. If you're with a friend, give them a hug as well. And I hope you enjoy your next podcast.